Yo, people, it's another episode of Truth and Banter. It's your boy Flash, and today we got Symone.
Yeah.
And we got Keeley today. And today, people, yep. Big up. And today we're going to be talking about parenting. Yeah? And why I've brought Keeley and Symone on today is because they work with youths. They have history of working with youths, interacting with youths, so maybe they can give some insight as to parenting today, what's going wrong, what's going right, and all in between, and the youths as well, what's happening with the youths as a reflect of the parenting. So to get into it, Keeley, I know you've worked with youths, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Give a quick breakdown for the people.
So I am founder of an organisation in Hackney called Parents' Voice, and they work with parents directly affected by knife crime and substance misuse and young people and the risks associated with youth culture.
Okay.
I currently don't do that, although I'm a founder of it. I am into health and wellness now, so I run a CMOS company selling CMOS. So check me out, Planet Moss 21 at Instagram.
All right. Get the plug up in there.
That's nice.
Definitely, people, go check that out.
Yeah.
100 and Symone.
Yes.
I know you've worked. Give a quick background for the people.
So I work in the community with families and local businesses, doing various different events, promoting just positive stuff in the community. I also run a self-empowerment workshop, building people's confidence and self-esteem through catwalk training. We put on yearly fashion shows, raising funds for different charities.
Yes. Big up. Yes, come on, both of you, big up yourselves. 100%. So, in regards to parenting in today, would you say the parenting has progressed or degressed from, say, our parents' time, say, 30 years ago? For your personal,
I would say that
opinions.
I wouldn't say progress, decrease. I would say it's different. I would say it's different in a sense that we've grown up in a different era, in a different time, different generation, different mindset, and I think that all plays a contribution. I'd say depending on the environment you grew up in, some of us still raise our children the way maybe our parents raised us, with a touch of the modern day parenting.
So I don't think you can make a comparison to whether it is decreased or if it's better.
Right.
I think this generation of young people are totally different from any other generation that has been before, because this generation has got social media, and I think our generation, so I'm in my 40s, so I think our generation in our 40s, we're the last generation of people that parents beat us or come from the Caribbean and had their ways and blah blah blah. And so I have found in my own experience anyway that people that come from my generation who are parents, they try to do what they think their parents couldn't do. So we don't beat our kids because our parents beat us, and we don't think it's a good thing.
Do you think that has benefit?
I don't know. I think it's an individual thing. I've racked my brain over it a lot because I'm a parent. I've got an 11-year-old and a 16-year-old, and I haven't beaten them.
Okay.
Because I was a child that was beaten every single day. However, my children don't have the same level of respect and the things that I had when I was younger for my parents.
Certain fears.
Yeah. And so what I have done is, because I was a child that was beaten, I have spent a lot of time talking to my children, and I have found that hasn't worked, but that doesn't mean it won't work for other parents.
No,
I think
not.
when we try to have these debates, it's an
I
individual
think that's what
thing.
our parents done that as well, and this is a lot of the time the reasons why. So I don't think everybody got beaten. It depends, innit? If you was bad breed and you weren't listening, because they spoke. All our parents spoke. They didn't. There's some. I'm not going to say everyone, because some parents maybe they just.
Well, when I think about it, though, when I was younger, all of my friends got beat. And the thing is, as well, if you're in the black community, you kind of think it's only you, but actually, the Chinese community, they beat their kids. My son's in school right now. And then I remember at school, there being people beat their kids in that generation because we wanted you to be quiet, do well. We were under a different kind of
that was their version of discipline.
And we think that discipline didn't work, or that we got beat. So what we did is we overcompensated with our kids. So we got beats, and we was told no a lot by our parents. And so now that we've had kids, we want to say yes. And so what I have seen is that the parents I've got around me that have slyly implemented their own parents' regime, their kids are slyly a little bit different. But the parents who try, like, it's just that old school thing, innit? Like, you remember when your mum used to say certain things to you,
they're more disciplined.
Like, and it started. So one of the things I've learned through doing Parents' Voice is that you can come up with all the theories in the world. If you are not consistent with any of those theories, they don't mean nothing. So I have met parents who've just got their parents in them. So they've disciplined and brought up their kids in that way that they've been brought up from their child's birth. So it's almost indoctrination. They've indoctrinated their kids to be this is how I was brought up. Whereas some of us are part of this little bit of what they called millennials. We're the new age ones. So I have been personally a talker. My mum didn't talk to me and didn't explain shit to me. So
Would it be fair to say that the majority of people today are millennials? Parents.
I think so. Well, I don't know. I can't say for all. But
I'm looking just for your personal. I can't obviously do your personal opinion. We're talking personal
I'd say
opinions right now.
I'd say
you can't talk for everyone from what you've seen.
I'd say And as the generations get younger, it really is much more that. I guess I work around a lot of younger people with children. So like 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are new mums. And I've noticed that the same things that we potentially went through in our generation, they're going through a lot worse. Like they don't have, not all of them, I shouldn't say they don't, not all of them have that support from their parents, because it's like their parents can't agree, or they're young, but they just don't agree with the fact that that's the direction they've gone in. So it's like, you want to go down that route, then learn the hard way kind of thing. Whereas you've got some parents that, if their child's gone down that route, they will actually guide them through that route, because they're not going to want them, especially knowing they were a young mum, they're not going to want them making maybe the same mistakes that they made when they were a young mum. So you kind of get a bit of both. So I think the younger generation, without that guidance, like what I had or you had, when like to know how to bring up our children, without that guidance, you're kind of left to your own resources, where you will be in that millennium generation where you don't have any... what's the word I'm trying to look for? Not substance.
Well, they don't though. They don't have substance, because if you're saying like a 17-year-old or 18-year-old,
they haven't got the values.
Believe me, they've got no substance. They're pushing their baby and they're like that.
Okay.
So substance is, you can say that definitely. Yeah.
It's like I've been around young people who, for example, when they've stayed with me, they feed their kid takeaway all the time, because they're not shown how to cook. But then it's like, okay, so you're in care, so what are social services doing? How are you in care with a family that's supposed to be looking after you? But then,
so why is this happening, you think, then?
Well,
because we was talking about whether the parenting has changed and how it's affected.
Again, it falls under different elements, because then you'll have the person that's in care that may be in care because they don't actually have parents that support them in that way. And then you've got the child that may have parents that support them, but are kind of trying to give that tough love where they want to leave them to learn in their own independent way, because that was a choice they made. And then you've got the parent that will actually kind of walk side by side with you and kind of maybe supporting you with that decision, because they just don't want you to make those same mess ups that they see in society in general.
I hear you. All right, what's your lot's views on both parents being involved within the kids' life and how it affects them, like through that your personal experiences?
So
might they, kids like with one parent, might they be more led astray and more?
I used to think that as well. I used to think that if you came from a single parent, you were probably going to be like this, and you were probably going to be like that, and there's so many social indicators of you should be like this and that. But it's an individual thing, because I personally, and people I know, my children have had their dad, but my daughter has still, gone down a road and done things that I would have never expected. And because of my naivety of, well, she's got a mum, she's got a dad, she's gonna, of course she's not gonna do that, of course that's not gonna happen. When it's about the mum and dad, because you can have a mum and dad, but if the dad ain't doing shit and the dad's just there in the yard and the mum's whatever, or the mum's trying, or the
depends
dad's,
what they're actually doing within.
And then you've got vice versa, because then you might have the dad that's doing everything and the mum that don't care.
Right,
so
the parents have got to be on the same page, and they've got to be consistent. They've got to set their agenda, their rules, right? This is how we want to raise our kids. This is what we want our kids to learn. This is what we implement. Because if you look at it, if you look at other cultures, if you look at the Jewish, it always baffles me how Stamford Hill, Jewish girls that live in Stamford Hill don't sit on the bus in awe at girls that look like younger than us, but all these young girls, and want to be like them. How comes none of them have broken free? Just like the Asians, when the Asians came to England, their parents kept them locked up. Now you've got Asians with blacks and whites, Asians. It's never happened with Jews, and that's because of the type of indoctrination their parents and their grandparents has given them.
Is this good, you're saying?
Well, it depends, innit? I mean, not that type of indoctrination, but the power of indoctrination. If you look at other people, Serena Williams and their dad, he indoctrinated them to be tennis players. If you look at Tiger Woods, he indoctrinated.
And you're saying that the indoctrination's going on less today?
Yeah, well, indoctrination goes on in schools, but that type of indoctrination where you and your partner have had a kid and you're like, right, we want our kid to be like this. So
that's put your emotions and your issues aside. Yeah, and your focus is your focus child.
Is on the kid, but not just that. But this is, I want my kid to be respectful. I don't want my kid to be out on the road. I want my kid to be a piano player. I want my kid to be whatever. You set the rules, and so cultures and people that I've seen from African cultures and other cultures where they've indoctrinated certain things into their kids. Their kids have to do those things. Doesn't mean they don't go and dabble though and get into other things on the side. But looking at my own experience where I have been disciplined heavily by my parents, and then I have decided to not discipline my kids like that, but to talk to my kids. The talking hasn't worked. In fact, what I've done is I've talked too much. I've given them too much information at an early age, and I've not set boundaries. I think when you start thinking of parenting, it can get all complicated because there's no manual to being a parent, is there?
So you say talking sometimes can be
too much. Yeah, my mum, every time I tell my mum about the conversations I have with my daughter, she's like, oh my God, you tell her too much. And the thing is, I can tell now that she's 16 and she's repeating some of them things back to me. I've told her too much. I haven't set a boundary. This is my rule and that's it. Doesn't matter what you do. I have been one of them parents where I'll say, that's the rule. If you break it, you're not getting this, that and the other. And I will take it from them. But 2 days later, I'll forget about it. So consistency, I can see that. Had I have set boundaries and been consistent. So those are the form of indoctrination, being consistent, setting boundaries, sticking to those things. Me, I'm that kind of parent. The dad will say, you can't go out. But I'll say, oh, but you did get a good grade in your exam this week. Go out.
Yes, okay.
That difference. And that has served, unfortunately, to bite me in the arse. Because when I said, oh, go and do whatever, the whatever wasn't good. Do you get what I'm saying? Whereas my partner at the time was like, don't matter that she's got a good grade. She's supposed to get a good grade.
Yeah, of course, that's standard.
So I see now that a little bit of indoctrination of that type would have maybe changed my personal circumstances with raising my kids.
A bit more of hardcore discipline.
Yeah, yeah. Not the beating necessarily, because you don't always have to beat kids. Yeah. But this is my way and I don't budge. No matter what you say or what you do.
No, I hear you. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, no, again, it's based on individuality. Based, if I'm saying on my experience, my daughter's 21 and it was like she had part relationship with her dad. And I think for her, being a girl, daddy apple of the eye, it was just wanting that attention from him all the time. So when it became less and less and shared, then it does that thing where it's like, okay, where else can I get the attention from? I feel that...
What do you mean less and less? What, the attention from the dad
I guess just faded, get busy with life. It wasn't the attention that she expected. You know, children have an expectation of their parents. Like I had an expectation of my dad. I felt like my dad let me down. And I kind of grew up
looking back now, do you feel that your expectation was too high or it was not?
No, I don't think it was too high. I mean, when you're around families where both parents are involved in the child's life, whether they're together or not, when you see what those dynamics are in bringing up that child, you then realize what the lack of was in either your own situation or anyone else's situation that's kind of struggling in that. I'm surrounded by diverse types of people. So I've been around families where they're either married or they're divorced, or a parent might have passed away, or they don't have any parents. I've seen the dynamics of their upbringing, and like you said earlier, the key thing is it's individuality. Like every journey is actually different, and there's so many different reasons that can contribute to how it affects children. But when you see the impact of two parents that work together under any situation, it has a different impact on the child coming up. Period. Whether they're together or not, if two parents are actively consistent in, even if definitely a parent had passed away, I've heard people say, but this person was like a father figure, or this person was like a mother figure. They've had another parent figure there to replace that. They feel what that was missing to make that, do you get what I mean? Completion. So, yeah.
Can a replacement father figure always replace, or is that individual?
So this is the sad thing about parenting. A father can be replaced. A mother can never be replaced. And if you look, if you go and look at abused children, right, or children that have been possibly neglected and whatever by their parents, rarely do they hate their mum. They might have an anger towards their mum, but they have this overwhelming desire and love for their mum. It takes a lot for a child to completely hate their mum. You can't replace a mum. You can replace a better person, right, that treats you better, you know. So a child could get abused by their parent and then get an amazing foster mum. But there's always that thing for their mum. But a dad,
I hear you, but I know some women that have kind of got a love, kind of hate for their mum. Where they've even had, where they've even put their hands on their mum from past stuff that.
But let their mum die. Let their mum die. They're the first person at their mum's feet or on their mum's hospital bed, bawling for their mum. We've got to just. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but everyone, we've got a connection with our parent. Maybe that's because as soon as our parent knows that we're existing in their belly, there's that connection. However, a father usually, not all the time, loves their child once their child is born. But what I have seen in my experience is that you could have a dad that is, you know, not in the picture, and the mum can marry or be with a boyfriend or whoever, husband, and he could treat that child better and replace the dad. Okay. But rarely.
I don't know.
I don't agree.
Because sometimes I feel like even though they've got that father figure, they always like kind of want that connection with their real dad. Like they always want pondering, even though they are happy with. But it's always lingering in their head. They just don't forget about it.
Right, I just think, I feel like no matter what, right, maternal bond is maternal bond, and no matter what breakage there was, like in that journey, whether it's from birth,
so you say it doesn't matter if it's the mother or the father.
Maternal bond. Even if your parents died at birth and you had parents raise you and you knew they was your parents, if you find out later on in life that they're not your real parents, you feel like a piece of you is missing because you want to know who your maternal parents was, because you feel that is a part of your identity. So even though I'm saying they could never be replaced in a sense that like there will always be that something missing if you never knew what it was, right? But they've always got something there to substitute it. That's as good as.
And I think the difference with the mother and the father is the mother is always there. Unless she's not a good mum and she's not there. But if you're talking about the normal everyday mum that loves their kid, no matter what happens with the dad, the mum is always there.
All right, hold on 1 second. If it was a mum that was basically like a deadbeat father,
I know somebody like that.
They've had this kid, but majority the kid don't even live with them. Lives with their nan. Something like that.
I know them stories.
Later on, is the child still going to be like what you was talking about?
Yeah, I've seen them stories. I've seen boys that mum has been like a man and gone about her business and left the baby for the grand to bring up, and they've grown up, and throughout their lives there's been that battle with their mum, but it's been that battle of love and hate. I love my mum because she's my mum. As standard, I'm supposed to love her, innit? Just as law. But I don't like what she's done. So one of the people I know, that her son is like in his 30s now, got a kid, but he's gone through a period of hating his mum, and he probably still, they get on fine now, but I bet you any money he's got that thing in him. Whereas the parents I know whose dads have left, the son goes through a stage of pining and dealing with anger over his dad. But then he either gets older and either carries the anger on and ends up in prison, or he does certain things, or he meets his dad or spends time with his dad and realises his dad ain't shit and ain't bothered about it and moves on. But the love of the mum, nah, that's eternal. That's your Mother Earth.
So a father's love is conditional then?
Yeah, I think so. I think it might be like discriminatory or whatever, but it's because they come from us, innit? So I've been in arguments with my ex-partner before when things have happened with my kids, and I've been like, yeah, but you don't feel what I feel. And he's like, what are you talking about? But it's my kid. But I know you don't feel what I feel because I'm her mum. You will die. Every father will say they'll die for their kid.
No, but then naturally, that's because we carry in the womb and again, I say it's the maternal bond.
And some fathers don't naturally have that maternal father thing either.
I hear you,
So
but hold on one second. There's some. Wouldn't you say there's some mothers that don't naturally have that as well? Okay.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I'm just saying.
100%.
I said I know people that it's baffled me,
but it's easier for a woman who don't have it to learn it than a man to not have it and learn it. A man can. I'm not saying they can't learn it. I'm just saying it's easier for a woman to learn it than it is for. If a man,
because it was part of their nature. It should be easier because I guess it's meant to be part of your nature.
It's nature. When you carry at the womb, you're connected through the umbilical cord. So scientifically, that bond.
There's a connection. So then what happens is when your friend tells you, "Oh, my baby father's not with me no more," you're not surprised. You're cool with it. But let your friend who's a male tell you, boy, my baby father's left, you think she's terrible and disgusting and out of order, and that's because you know she's naturally, by God's whatever, got supposed to have a maternal connection to her kid. But I watched my friend, this was a friend within my circle who she loved her son, but she was living her best life.
Yeah.
She was living her best life, and he has suffered for it, and everybody's given her grief, but she's one of them people that don't give a shit anyway. But when I've been in the conversations with the men, hearing about how they talk about her because of what she's done is absolutely disgusting, because I know a million men that do that. I know men all my life that's done that, and it's not right.
I know it's sad, but it's different when it's viewed
when unwritten laws about how what is
man is a man and a woman a woman, and they're meant to
yeah.
have certain characteristics or more certain characteristics. They're meant to be more emotional than men, so their emotions should kind of let them stay there inside it, I guess.
And it's these unwritten laws that give license for certain types of bullshit that we all put up with. Like a lot of guys don't check their kid when they're, not seeing the mum.
Alright, hold on 1 second.
Like
There is definitely. There is some men that's pity now.
Not all.
Not all.
There's some
Come
men
on.
that fight and
Definitely,
stand
100%. All right. Now for the women that's got, like, as you said, like fathers that might not come and check their kid or might do this stuff that's unheard of and not right. A lot of the times, these traits within these men, they've always been there. You know, them ones there before they even had the kid with the men. They've always been there.
I agree.
How mad can a woman be at the man knowing that he's always been that way, and expecting him to change? Should you be happy with the person that you got, or should you be upset because he's not changing?
Hold on. Can
what?
I just say?
You can't even finish your sentence. You're just getting in there.
I don't know if I'm going to answer this in the wrong way, but I'm going to just say it anyway.
Say how you feel.
I'm going to say how I feel. Right. Oh shit! Don't lose the point. Oh god, I thought. You made me lose the point.
I said, should just women be responsible, because a lot of the traits that they're talking about when they're saying that there's not this,
Okay,
he
so
ain't keeping up with this.
Thing. Even if the woman knew this, right? Because I don't like the way you refer to us, that's mad. But because sometimes you men are genius. I'm just saying, you men are genius. Yeah, you did. I picked up on it still. I picked up on it. Yeah, you picked up on it. I picked up on it.
I did say
Wait. That's why I said, hold on. I want to answer. I'm ready.
What did I say exactly?
Watch it back. Watch it back.
Oh, to make women act mad.
Yeah. If a woman's mad enough to know, if a woman's mad enough to know that a guy has these traits before, I wouldn't say a woman's mad to know because on a men, like sheep and
Well,
no,
look, the
that's
long
just
and
like-
short of it is
mad to
this.
know. Yeah.
When you know better, you do better. So when you are now in a bad stage or finished with your partner and you try to moan about him, you're always going to get that one person that's going to point out, yeah, but you knew what he was like when you met him.
I want to shut down all of that, because even if you had a
Okay.
one night stand or it was unconsented, remember, children are conceived under various circumstances. Either way, it takes
one second
two.
though, yeah. You see, it does take two, but it only takes one to whether that child comes into the world or not.
The final
Yeah?
decision
So
comes
that-
down to
yeah,
the woman.
to the woman, yeah?
Yeah.
So
But the
we have to
stupidity-
take
So
that.
are you
We have
saying?
to
So are you
take that into
saying?
consideration.
Wait. So then, are
as well,
you
don't we?
saying? Are you
I'm doing that,
saying
cool.
that the woman? So basically, the woman knowing that should really make a conscious decision to really not have that child if she feels that she knew that that man had these traits. Because
Yes, but we're not. But remember,
I'm asking, is
when
it-
we-
are you-
but
it's
wait,
about-
but wait, you're
it's a-
forgetting. You're
it's about
thinking,
accountability.
You're thinking that when the woman picked the man, she was of right mind anyway.
Okay.
What I have worked out is that if young girls or women like us had self-worth and self-esteem, we wouldn't even look at certain men. But we look at them, and we look at them because we're probably rescuers. So we look at them like, oh, I know he's got them faults, but you know what? I can change him. He loves me, and all that crap. And then we might find ourselves in a situation where we're even pregnant. And really, the right thing, God forbid me for saying it, the right thing is you messed up and you should deal with that privately or whatever. But what happens is you get that other group of women that are like, but he loves me. And if we have a child, we're going to be together and it's going to be all right. So they end up bringing these child because they have this delusion. And I've known about this delusion from I was young, that when you have a baby for a man, he changes. He don't. You change.
He don't. Yeah.
You change.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
change.
All right,
will
so one
change,
but
second.
he don't change.
So if he doesn't change,
He changes
Is
if
it-
he wants to
so-
change.
all
But
right,
if he
all right,
don't
but
want to
if he
change, he's
doesn't-
not going to change.
No, but then the
is
woman
it
needs
if
to
he
accept
doesn't
that.
and
The
you
woman needs to
knew where you
accept
was
that. You
at the
can't-
place?
But we didn't.
Is it for
we
you
just
to be
made,
mad?
Well,
The woman needs to
no. So
accept
what
it.
it's
That's what I'm
called is
asking.
called
The woman needs to accept
accountability.
it.
It's called accountability. So when you realise I messed up, the guy that's my baby father or whatever is not even the guy that I should have picked. You have to take accountability for your actions, because believe me, along the way, God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, showed you signs. I think they're like, you lot call them red flags. They
Yeah.
showed you red flags, because when you break
But the
up
thing
with
is you
someone,
were
see
saying
those
she
red
shouldn't
flags.
be that upset if he's not in her life, right? Is that what you're saying? If he's not in the child's life?
about
No.
her having
I
the
said
power
if
to make
he's
that
if he's not
decision.
being consistent, and I said and that
You
sort
met
of
him,
stuff.
so if you've got pregnant for him under whatever circumstances, and then he's playing this part,
He's
ain't that how you
acting
met
up,
him?
yeah.
But we don't,
That's what
because
I was saying,
we're
yeah.
ruled by our
Even
emotions.
though you've grown,
Yeah.
he hasn't grown.
Well, when you've grown, then you'll accept accountability. So you'll look at him and be like, yeah, I fucked up. I've totally messed up there, but he's my kid's dad and whatever,
And that's
and
what it is.
I'll leave it. He might not even be that good of a dad, but it don't matter. As long as I'm right and I'm right on point for my kid, fuck that, I'll move on. In every,
sure.
what is it? In every lesson, there's a blessing. It's not a mistake. So I think once you know better, you end up doing better. And that's just it. Don't beat yourself up because you picked the wrong one. Just...
What would you say the ideal parents are?
There ain't no ideal parents. I've been racking my brain about this. So when I said in the beginning that I'm the founder of Parents Voice, we covered it was about early intervention for parents. So to teach parents to spot the signs of sexual exploitation or all sorts of things, domestic violence and drugs. And then it got to a stage where I started going through things with my own children where I felt like a hypocrite standing there saying to parents, yeah, this is what you do. You do this and you do that. Because I was doing all that shit and I was on point with my kid. And it just went belly up. So there is no perfect parent. The only advice I would give to a parent is peer pressure is the worst thing for your kid, and it's a natural force that you can't stop. So you could be a parent that does the indoctrination thing in your yard, but if you send your kid to a public school and not a school where they have your thoughts, your kid is going to be different. Peer pressure is the worst thing. But as a parent,
but I'm going back. See the peer pressure? Going back to the indoctrination, how you grow them, whether it's millennial.
sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. So you get those parents who do the indoctrination thing, like I just said, and their kid, just like a Muslim
you refer
kid,
to the Jewish kids, isn't it? You saying when they're on the bus, they see all this stuff, and
they're
they don't.
indoctrinated to some whole other level. But just like some Muslims are like that because they're born into it. It's different when you try to teach a kid something when they're already born and they've got eyes. But when they are born into a religion or a certain way that you want them to live, then their cousins, their nan, their granddad, everybody around them lives that way, so they follow it.
Generational.
Doesn't mean that they don't do other shit on the side, because what I found out working with parents' voices, those African parents that I mentioned that are into church and disciplining their kids and doing all this shit, their kids were the ones that were stabbing and murdering. The amount of parents I had at my feet crying, saying, but he was at church, I took him to church, I've done all those things. So even if your kid is indoctrinated with your little ways, if your kid goes to school and their brethren is into whatever, they're going to be into that shit, irrespective of your thing. So there is no perfect parent.
And the thing is the stigma,
There just isn't. You just
There is
learn
no perfect,
as you
just-
go along.
Do you
That's
believe
it.
Try to guide them.
People guide children individually, or do you
Yeah,
feel like
that's what I've just been talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
There is no book, it's individual.
It's
Because
individual.
now my daughter's got to
we should do
16.
that? We should guide
Yeah.
them more individually. I don't think there is an individual.
Because there's just too many things to. Times and seasons change. Everything changes. You can't just do things the same way all the time. And you
been schooling for how many years?
Yeah.
So it's like even so many things have been done, like, and they've been in place for like over 100 years.
Yeah, but also now
Yeah.
you've got this
But we've
different
got
thing,
more-
which is social
Yeah,
media.
we got there's more,
So
a lot
as
more
parents,
influence right
yeah.
now.
We're not even on the ball. So we might be on the ball, but we're like, right, I've got to give him a phone because he's 11
Yes.
now. And I've got to give him keys to get in and out because he's 11 now. He's going secondary school. I've got to go to work. And
then it's
you've just
adding the
opened
curfew
whole
because they're
door
turning into a teenager
to a
now.
whole other
So now
thing.
you can stay out with your friends till 6
Yeah.
o'clock, get home before dark.
So 90% of the kids are going down that road where they see certain things and it just grows and grows and grows.
To the point where the younger generation now actually expect it because they're seeing it. So you know, like my daughter's friends, the way they behave, they still behave like how I raised my child. And it's like, but when I look at my child, your friends, you're 21, they're 21, they've got kids. They should be behaving how you're behaving because they're parents, but they're behaving how you was behaving when you were 16. Not all of them, but some of them that I've seen, you're behaving like she was behaving when she was 16, and you've got a kid. So it's
Yeah,
like,
see, all that kids. See, my daughter is 16. She's definitely a millennial. But I'm old school. I've been brought up old school. However, I tried to do it the modern way of talking. Let's talk. The talking didn't work. And now things are out of my hands. So now I am following my daughter's lead. I'm guiding her and still putting my bit in. But I'm following her lead because she is a product of her environment and the things that I overlooked. But
how different were we?
Okay.
I'm saying
no, we
beating
weren't.
had a
That's
bad
another
impact
thing.
on my
There's this
situation.
illusion that we were different.
What happened? I think personally,
We weren't different.
we wasn't different because
we weren't
I done my thing and I was doing whatever, but
we
I
never,
did get beat. Like,
right. So the only thing,
my
thing.
mum and my pop.
If
Sorry, should I even put that out?
No, you're baiting yourself up. No.
I nearly did it. I was just like, I think the camera still picked it up anyway. I think, oh shit.
But
You're
anyway,
baiting
now this is
yourself
old
up.
school, yeah. And to me personally, at the time, I was very upset. But you see, when I got older, I'm actually very
You
thankful.
realise the impact,
I'm actually very thankful.
But that's
because
the thing.
I understand. I couldn't
This-
understand
but then that's
back
the thing.
then.
You see,
but now I
this
can understand why
generation-
I needed to be.
But you see,
if
this
I just got talked
generation,
to, I might
you
have
see,
even
like
been
when
much,
my
much worse.
daughter turned round, because we didn't really beat my child. We didn't. She weren't. I wouldn't say she's spoiled. She was disciplined because she really listened. To be fair, but our point of not listening, it weren't beating. But the one day something was out of control, and she actually felt the wrath of a lick, and it weren't even licks like how we got licks, but she held on to that perception of beating in a different way to how we did.
Yeah, but that's
and
because they're told.
But that's what
Your
I'm saying.
parents
In the
aren't allowed to
moment,
beat.
in the moment, we got upset and we understood what the beating was and took it. And then as we got older, we understood what it was. Whereas in her case, she got that beating, understood why she got the beating, but didn't think the beating was fair, but held on to that beating for so long that it was used in retaliation for any other thing that was coming up as a discipline. But you beat me to the point where, if you go out there and say that, you can get me arrested, or do you get what I'm trying to say?
do you remember
because of
when
that
you
one
was-
thing that happened 4 years ago?
So she's
You're
holding on to
bringing
it.
up. Right,
Yeah, I've
but
had
do you
to
remember when
explain
you
it.
was little?
But back in the day, you couldn't hold on to
Right,
that.
so I was just about to say, when you was little, when your mum beat you, on the rare occasion that you would have a welt or whatever, it was already instilled in you. You knew you weren't going to school to say nothing. Why? Because you knew social services weren't right. You knew that before you even get to social services, your mum's
Mad.
gonna
Do you
bust your ass
listen,
again.
I remember
Now-
the day I tried to say to my mum, I'm calling child line.
Right, I was just
Child
about to
line,
say that,
what?
yeah.
My backside. Child line, what? I didn't even get to finish say the second word. Child what?
But this, what it is the access to information. The access that young people have to information is
And
out
the freedom,
of control.
the freedom the government have
what
given.
it is
Yes, that's
the
what
freedom the government
But
have
it's not
given.
even the government. We tried to say sometimes it's the government,
because the
but
government's
I know parents whose kids don't have no phone.
Yeah.
They don't have a phone. This is my rules. This is my way. You ain't having a phone. This is what we
But you
teach.
see, like when we
But
say,
that only works
for
you
so
but
long.
you see, like when
Yeah,
people
to a
when we
certain-
say like the people don't beat our kids today, and back in the day we used to. You can't beat your kids today.
No,
you can't.
It's
You
not
can't.
like a choice that
You
people
can't.
have made.
Listen,
you can't. That's the
even-
government. That's the
even
government.
if-
That's the government's choice.
But
Yeah.
do you know what?
Yeah?
Actually,
you can say
I
that.
just
That's a
point
government's
out,
choice.
there is no law that is written that says you cannot beat your kids.
No.
There's no. We're using the term beat, which just is not the right
you hit-
word, right?
hit.
So if you hit your kid and your kid presents somewhere with a mark, then we need to have a conversation. And depending on that conversation is depending on where it would go. However, if you hit or whatever, or discipline your kid and your kid goes into school and there's no mark and your kid don't say, then there's nothing. There's no actual law. What it is the over-advertising.
What if there's no mark but your kid says?
Yeah, then what they do is investigate. And if it's not abuse, because 90% of the times in the black community, it's not abuse. The deaths amongst young people under 1 and all them shit there, it's not from black people, it's from white people. So we're not that common denominator. They don't need to be looking at us. I think we just use the wrong narrative. I beat my kids, that just sets off the wrong. It's not that. We discipline our kids, and we know that we can't discipline our kids. So although there's no written law which says under section whatever, you can't beat your kids. However, if your kid presented with a mark and they deemed it was abuse, you would get done for abuse of a child. But there is no thing. So there's a way to discipline your kids. And you don't have to beat them. You don't.
Yeah, no, definitely you don't.
You
Yeah,
don't.
of course
They
not.
don't
Yeah,
come
just
from
speak
our
with
area.
understanding. I think.
Understanding,
yeah.
Understanding, so they understand it.
Let's say you got 3 children, same mum, same dad, same house.
Yeah.
These are all gonna be different, innit?
Yeah.
This is why, like, my thing is when it comes down to parenting, because that's what the
Yeah.
discussion is, isn't it? Like when it comes down to parenting, I think a lot of the problem that everyone has is judgment.
Yes.
Yeah. Like judgment on judgment on each other,
Yeah.
judgment on the kids.
Yeah.
You got to be on the
Judgment.
same page.
Yeah.
If you're just throwing hella judgment
That's the
around,
hardest thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
sometimes the roles
really
in the
that's
house
how
are
I go for
different.
it.
Sometimes
Yeah.
if dad works, the last thing he wants to do when he comes home is have to shout at the kids. You've been shouting at the kids. So sometimes, or sometimes the dad will see you disciplining the kids, and really he should intervene and buff it up a little bit and say something. But he chooses not to because his thing is, you're dealing with it. But actually I needed you to. So the thing with parenting is you got to be on the same page. If there's 2 parents in the home, you got to be on totally the same page and you got to back each other up.
100%.
People go through things without judgment.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
you
that's
guide people, you
hard.
guide them, it's very hard
Because
we already have what
Our preconceived ideas about how we want our kids to be. And so when they start messing up,
and the things we've gone through, we're like, I don't
right,
want to go through
yeah,
it.
that's
You know
that,
what I mean?
in my experience, has been the worst thing. That whole indoctrination of, if you do that, this will happen. I did it. It don't work.
It
Your
don't
children
work.
have got to make their own mistake. And what I have found is if you, against all
think
odds,
that's
if
the
you
way
let
to-
them...
this-
I learned that the hard way, but I did.
Is
When
there-
you sit
is
down,
there-
when your child's at a
okay.
certain age that you can actually have a conversation, and that's
Yeah.
the beauty in it. When
Having
you can
that
have that
conversation.
conversation with your child and they can actually tell you in
Express
your
stuff
parenting
to
and
you.
express
Yeah.
things to you that
Yeah.
isn't from a place of emotion where
Yeah.
it's discipline and it's that and it's that, so they
Yeah.
don't understand and it's an eye for an eye and because ears get blocked, there's blockages,
Yeah.
they don't really see through nothing. So when you get to that stage and you sit down and they give you that understanding, I've never been that type of parent where I don't believe a child has a voice. I've always believed children have a voice. Their behavior don't come from nowhere. And I do, a lot of people say to me like, you're too soft as a parent, or you need to learn to give tough love more. I'm not being funny, but a lot of kids that I guess I've grown with from the community that don't have like proper parents there for them, I've gelled with them for the fact that I let them have a voice. I've had to let them have a voice because I need to know who I'm bringing in my environment. I need to be able to have a conversation with them and make them feel like there's a sense of trust here. But at the same time, I want to know what I'm dealing with because I want to know what I'm bringing to my personal life. Do you get what I mean? I'm not going to just throw myself out in the community and volunteer and help and not take those risk factors into. You have to communicate with people. In order to do that, you need to give them that voice. You need to allow them to have that chance to express themselves and understand where they're coming from. Get to know their mindset, get to know their journey, because there's a past behind everything.
But can there not be a balance with the discipline? you still got that
Some
understanding?
kids, you don't need to discipline them at all. It's
Yeah, for real.
Again,
for real.
It's
the
just-
individual thing.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, for
I
real.
don't.
Just
I
need to
don't
look
hit my kids. I don't need
Direct,
to.
not even
Although the
disciplining that
screaming
way.
and shouting don't work either, because I do all that hollering and
Yeah.
that I've worked
Yeah.
out after years of doing that.
That was me.
That
I
don't
was a
work.
screamer.
That don't work.
I was a
They
screamer.
stop-
I was the
they
shouter.
Stop hearing.
So,
And she hates it. Even now, up to now, if my tone is over a certain level, trust me, she ain't talking to me. She ain't answering her phone for a week or
The
two.
best thing for kids is ignoring them. So when they've done, not ignoring them as in you don't tell them what's the issue, but I've got nothing to say. So someone told me that. They said, oh, you sit down and explain too much. Just try. And when she does something wrong and she knows that you know, I've got nothing to say to you. And I
And
did
it
that
does,
for
that
like 3-4
works.
days and it killed
It does,
her. She
it
kept
works.
coming back like,
It works.
"Mom,"
And then
I
they
got
want to
nothing
listen
say.
to you. They actually do want to listen to
No,
what
they
you have to
wanna-
say because now they need your attention.
That reverse.
Yeah.
Psychology.
Yeah, reverse
'Cause
psychology.
You ain't gonna win. You're never gonna win
Yeah.
with your kids because if
Trust
your kids
me.
are gonna do or be something,
And that's from
they're
any
gonna do or
type
be
of...
it irrespective of
There's
how
no,
you brought
there's
them up.
no, it's nothing to do with race. It's nothing to do with, do you get what I mean? There's
No,
no
I've looked
specific
at
thing
all
because
those
everything
things.
contributes. Everything contributes.
I think you
Definitely,
before they can
100%.
communicate. Like even when they're toddlers and you have to give them a little slap on the hand because they was going towards the plug socket.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Those-
Like, so I can't tell you. You don't understand. So let me.
Yeah,
They take
you
effect.
use violence.
So you understand that you didn't like that.
Yeah,
did you?
yeah.
And now
But
you're
some
not gonna go to-
psychologists would say that that's you introducing them to
violence.
violence.
No, I understand. But I'm
Okay.
saying to you, when you can't communicate, sometimes you feel like you're violence is violence, like you said. There's difference
But then
between
is that a thing that's a lacking patience with the parent then? Because to be fair,
Yes.
you'll remember that communication, they may know that they're doing something naughty, but they will remember that's something to fear. Whereas if they're not communicating and don't know how to communicate, you want to teach them the understanding of what no
Is.
and
Well, some parents wouldn't say no.
and it's patience, it's patience, it's
Yeah,
patience.
yeah.
To me,
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm more understanding when they can't communicate because, like I say, it's not beats.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah.
talking about beats here.
No.
And there's a big difference.
There's just
There's like there's
I hear you.
there's things to make.
I hear what you're saying.
And they do work. It's like I say, it might not work with everyone, but it works in terms of don't touch that.
So when my son was troubling fire, I never thought of hitting him. It started to get on my nerves. So when he touched the lighter, I just let him touch the lighter. And as soon as he felt the thing of the lighter, he was like,
That's it. And he didn't do it again.
never touched it again. That doesn't mean I'm going to leave my son's hand in a
yeah,
fire.
yeah,
But I thought if I don't stop it, this guy's going to be some arsonist or whatever. So let me just leave him. And I just watched him. And as soon as he put his hand in the fire, he stopped and never done it again. Because they have to learn their own
that is
mistakes.
very.
That's what I meant about the. It doesn't matter. Even if, like I said, the lighter, so he hurt something.
Yeah.
Where it was like, oh, don't touch that again.
What I will say, what do you think? I think that when it comes to parenting and going back to the old school generation, I think they're a bit more. They was a bit more considerate in the music they listened to. What would you say?
Oh, I agree.
Nowadays, the parents are just listening to whatever music like
I couldn't
WAP
listen
and
to a
all
certain
this
type of
madness.
music around my mum. No way,
Back
we
in the
couldn't even
day.
try and sing the lyrics around
The
her.
slackness and all them. They
Nah,
don't play
mate.
that slack.
Even at
Now
the
the
family
parents are
parties,
playing the slackness
unless
now.
your parent gave you permission to wind down low, you weren't winding down. I'm just saying, if I never got the look from a mum or an auntie, or they never said, Lana, where's Lana? If they never said that, I'm that quiet little girl in the corner. But if I was at any, especially if they take you to other parties, you couldn't do it in your own environment. But you see, if the competition was at somebody else's turf, oh, you mad? They want you to go out there and don't shame them. You better win.
But nowadays, it's like, for some people, not everyone, I'm not going to speak on everyone, but for a lot of parents, it's like a thing for their girl, maybe their little daughter to be winding up doing like some latest like wine, which is really inappropriate. What would you say?
When I first seen my child dance like that, still, she will tell you what my reaction was. But I don't know, I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt like my heart sunk. And I just knew, as a parent, I knew if I went against and tried to come out as that, rah, 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 what you doing, don't do it, I knew that she would go harder to do it even harder. So my thing was, I had a conversation with her. I told her how the outlook would look if this was the choice that she chose. And she chose to go through her own experience and learn that that was not the road that she wanted to go down, even though she went down it for a good few months, because obviously, like you said, the peer pressures, the social media,
That's
the wanting to
normalised.
live up to.
That's
So she
normalised
tried it out.
dancing
And at one point, I'm not going to lie, I thought, Lord, she's so good at it. The way the jobs were
Does
flowing in.
normalize mean it's all right?
It wasn't
No,
all
of course
right.
not.
It wasn't all right. It weren't all right. And I had everyone on me. as the parent. I had everyone on me. Everyone looked at me. Why are you letting her do music videos? Why are you letting her model and be naked on? Are you crazy?
But she's big. But she's.
I would never want her to do that. That's not. I never grew up saying, pose in front of the camera, wear a swimsuit, twerk. No, that wasn't me. But if she started doing that, she learned that somewhere else. And I tried to teach her differently, and she chose to do that. But she also grew up and chose to not do that anymore because she had to learn the hard way. But I knew that if I went on her like I nearly tried to, it was a thing where she was trying to prove a point to me. And I weren't trying to do that battle, because then if she had continued, then that could have been me then being that parent watching my child trying to be the next video vixen. I'm not being funny, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just didn't want it for her.
Twerking or anything like that. They're all doing it.
Come
on, look at the dancing we was doing. My parents.
I'm not saying I weren't a dancer. I'm not saying I weren't a dancer. But there's a difference between how we wind back then and to how they wind back now. Everything is sexualized.
Everything is much more.
No, but sometimes I think we're hypocrites.
Wait.
I've been to a soca rave.
Even though the older generation, they had grime too, rub down wallpaper and all of that. They had grime, but the grime was discreet grime. I swear it was discreet grime.
It wasn't as in your face like now. Like it's twerking. Like twerking's like the main.
It was from religious people.
Right, but you know what? I thought
But
about that.
A lot more people were religious back then. But now we might not be religious, but a lot of us may be spiritual now. So we still
that
so we
sort
still
of
got certain
dancing
elements.
is in our culture.
I'm saying, are we coming from a religious standpoint when we're telling us?
No, we're coming from a hypocritical standpoint because we're forgetting what our parents were doing. We're forgetting what we were doing. I know what I was doing. And we're forgetting that our children are now born into a different generation. Which is a social media generation and a thing of one girl could come on TikTok and create some sort of thing, and that's it. She's a big.
But then it brings it back to what you were saying
that's cool.
earlier.
Some of the TikTok stuff is actually alright. There's nothing like.
Yeah, but some of them is the twerking thing. It's part of it, and normalised is that everybody's doing it. You will catch a 17 or 18-year-old's mum doing it because she's probably young.
And I'm not being funny. The world is just the world. You would have the odd person that would do the most dumbest thing and have their parents do stupid things.
The world is the world, and as you were saying, Keeley, a lot of it is seems like it's pushed through social media, etc. So these things become normalized through social media. Is it for the parents to go with what's normalized or to like? No,
the parents are supposed to fight against it, but it is a hard battle. It is an arduous battle because it's peer pressure in it. So my daughter's never had a phone. However, she's been bought numerous phones, and when I have let her have a phone for a little while, I've ended up smashing up the phone. Like I've smashed up so many phones. I've just bought my daughter a phone at 16 because for me, what I have seen working with parents whose kids have been killed by a series of text messages back and forth on Snapchat and all that shit, and now their kid is dead. I've seen girls, I've worked with girls that have been raped, been gang raped, sexually exploited and all that sort of stuff, and it's all been around social media, and so I've always had a loathing for the phone, just a loathing for the phone. So she's got a phone now, and now my son is 11, and now I'm about to give my son a phone. And already I just, I've been pondering, before I even get to that point of giving this boy a phone, let me just fill up his life. He does football, he's going to go to 2 clubs now, not 1. He's going to go box. I just got a whole nother outlook with him, and he's the endangered one rather than my daughter.
As a boy.
But I'm just on that now. So social media to me is the devil. And because of that job that I've done, I've been to many lectures and psychologist conferences and all that, and social media and drill music and all that, even though I love some of it. Some of it I love, and it's young people talking about where they come from, but it's also a load of young people chatting a bag of crap, and they're inciting certain things. And 100%. I have seen, as a youth worker, I've buried many young people through shit that's happened over social media, and so I've never wanted to give that to my daughter. And when I have given it to my daughter, God, within months, weeks, minutes, shit's happened because young people are expressing themselves on social media, and young people like psychologists. If you go to psychologist conference and these things, they talk about that your children. So anyone like 17, 18 down if you look at their brain is smaller than our brain.
Okay.
Because they get a lack of information. So when we was younger, or now even, we get information from each other. I've got to check you, I've got to give you the gossip, I've got to see you, I've got to do all these things. Now everything is generated from a phone. So if I don't get a like, that makes me feel a certain type of way about it. So they've actually depicted that not only are young people's brains smaller, but they also have this belief in nothing. So it's called Nietzsche. It's the Nietzsche theory. And it means that young people just believe in nothing. Like, it doesn't matter if they come from religious families or cultural families. Once they're let out into society and peer pressure and all those other elements can get in, they end up like that. Which is a belief in nothing. When you ask them, what do you want to do? I want to be an influencer. Oh, I want to be a rapper. Like, it's all those same things. They're stuck because their brain is not getting stimulated. So as a parent, that is a massive battle to fight against. So you cannot give your kid a phone, but unfortunately at some stage it comes a point, like my daughter now going to college, I need to give her a phone because she's going to college, I need to speak to her. So you can't win that battle, you just have to hope that your child is sensible.
Because I have heard a lot of, like, they say a lot of kids been going through, like, mental health and things like that at a very young age.
Mental health.
You know, I think it's more monitored again, as I say. I think a lot of things, similar things are happening to when we were young. But
I don't know about the mental health and that sort of, I'm not too sure.
I'm not being funny, but alright, we never had the level of social media that they have now, right? But when we had like mobile phones and pagers, I'm not being funny, it wasn't like 24 hours. Like, my daughter don't sleep.
Yeah,
like, it's 24 hours
an adult
day.
when I got a mobile phone. I don't know about you, but
I got a mobile at like 16.
As an adult, I didn't have a mobile phone at 15, 16. There weren't mobile phones.
I got a mobile at 16, but we had pagers before 16. And again, we still weren't up like
even a pager's
24 hours.
You ain't stuck on a pager.
You ain't stuck on a pager.
Even the phones back then, you weren't really stuck on it.
You weren't stuck
even
on the
with
phones.
BlackBerry, you weren't even really
and
stuck
remember,
on it.
we keep saying social media. It's not just social media. It's the access that we all have to information. So you've got an 11-year-old boy who's going through the normal adolescent transition from a primary to secondary, and so he has all these thoughts. Usually back in the days he could only get thoughts and get them backed up by his brethren. He might tell his brethren his thoughts and his brethren might be, I looked at that magazine now. Now he sits in his room on his own, everyone's doing their own thing, and and whatever comes into his head, he can literally type it into the thing. So he starts off looking at maybe, I don't know, whatever young boys look at if they're trying to be whatever, sexual or whatever. But then it leads into all other things. As we know, all of our kids in this generation started with Peppa Pig on YouTube. And then it escalated into this, that and the other. And then everyone's kids started making videos and doing their shit. Now some of the young people are in their 20s.
I remember when we went on
influencers.
Facebook, you had no kids on Facebook.
No.
You had to be over the age of like, was it 16 or something like that? You had to be over a certain age.
Well, I got onto Facebook late.
You got babies with pages, do you know what I mean?
Well, because when we have kids, what do you see on the bus? You see the parent give the kid the phone. The kid
depends what they use. I guess it depends what they're using the phone for at the end of the day.
Yeah, so there's positive elements to it. So if you're a parent, I guess, and you've got rules and you're disciplined, you have rules. So with my son, what I never implemented with my daughter is that, right, you're going to have the phone, and every day at 7:30, I get the phone. The phone goes outside the bedroom
door. The thing is you have to find a compromise to move in with the time, because you can't live in the old time. But you've got to be. We don't live in that. No, I'm not saying we do. I'm just saying generally, you can't. You have to move with the times. There's no way you can stay in like. The new generation of kids are not gonna not have a mobile phone. You see, like how we was very kind of disciplined with it. Yeah, I'm saying, but when it passes down to us, so if my daughter has a child, I know that how I am with her and what I've taught her, she will implicate that with her kid. There's some kids that don't have that ain't going to implicate that with their child. So they're going to be replicating what they see their parent doing, because they're going to see that as the norm. And it will filter to that.
Young people don't do what you tell them. They do what they see you do. So again, if you've got your rules, and you are consistent with your rules and you don't budge, you know, if you say 7:30, I'm taking the phone, and he comes in at 7:30, oh please mum, please, and you budge, you're just moving your boundary. But if you stick to that boundary, I don't care what's on, 7:30 you give me the phone, they will conform to that until they're free to do otherwise. Because I have seen the difference between the parents that think it's okay to leave the kid with the phone to the parents who are on it, who are on it, not just checking what their kids are doing because you can't control it. It's only when you look at it after you can see what your kids have looked at. But I mean that thing of 7:30, I want the phone. You're not going in your room with the phone. You don't go to bed with the phone.
And obviously you have got children that you can give these things to, that they're mature enough to obviously be sensible. We're not saying like it's all
like that. No.
Yeah, not all. Yeah.
You can tell by your child. So from my child was little, we've always said Imani's Ina. She's an Ina child. That she's Ina. So Ina in our culture or thing means almost too involved. But if you look at it as a free spirit, she's hungry for life. She wants to experience all of life. So if part of all of life is this and being like that, she wants to experience.
We're not so far removed as our parents were to us.
No, we're not. But we didn't have this.
No, you're right, but it's still we're still not so far removed in terms of understanding.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So we're able to implement things that our parents weren't able to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of our ways, innit? So like I'm saying, even though I struggle, I see that I've actually planted seeds from what my parents taught me. And I get people saying to me, listen, better days are coming. All what you've taught her or him, you're going to see that later. Don't worry about that. You might be going through a phase of hell right now.
That's what I'm saying about judgment.
And I do, I hear that all the time.
Allow people to
because we
go
don't
through things and be there for them still.
But you know what I think that is as well? I think it's because as parents, we think we've got ownership. We think that they belong to us. And unfortunately, once they get to a certain age, they are a part of the mum, if the dad's around, the dad, and then the rest of them is their own self. And so you can't stop what they want to be. That's it, you just can't. So once they get to the 16 mark, you've got to start working with them. You have your boundaries and you have your thing of you can't do that under my roof and you can't do this. But you compromise a bit and you navigate. And because they're growing and they're different from us. Because when I do sit and talk to my daughter, I'm blown away. I'm like, oh shit. Or sometimes I sit there like, that's me. That's me. She's but then they scare us because they be 16-year-olds of this time. And 16-year-olds of this time are a little bit scary and out of control. But you hope for the best, innit?
Yeah. No, definitely. 100%. All right. On another note, going back to the boyfriends and girlfriends. A person set up for me to ask this. They said basically a lot of girls talk about deadbeat baby fathers, and some guys say that it's the girl's fault because basically they're dealing with unhealed traumas that they haven't dealt with. And sometimes let me finish.
I just find that mad funny. No, go on. Go on. Yeah.
Is this coming from the Deadbeat Fathers?
Yeah, this is coming from this is on behalf of the Deadbeat Fathers right now,
Oh,
they're saying that sometimes it's the women's fault, and a lot of them, they know that they've got shit from their childhood that they haven't really come to terms with, and they're fighting coming to terms with. They said some of them actually need to go maybe speak to someone, a psychiatrist, and they're avoiding this. And they're trying to put this like energy onto the fathers, the deadbeat fathers, instead of dealing with themselves.
Not the fathers, but the deadbeat fathers. So do we even really value
and some of them say that they don't really actually think that they're really that deadbeat, because on some of their occasions they're like their baby mother has got with someone that's even more deader.
Hold on. Is that on the grounds? Wait.
That's even more deader than them to prove their point that it wasn't actually them.
So wait, before you even carry on, what is a deadbeat father? What's the definition?
I don't know what I'm just saying. I'm just going by use lot's definition. Whatever it is, whatever you lot think it is. This is what I'm talking about, and this is what they said.
You know what kills it is the way it was said, like there ain't no men in the world that don't have problems in their child. I'm just saying.
There is.
Like,
I mean, maybe that's for them as well. It's all in the head.
Hold on. Is that a deflection? Is that
but you called them
is that a deflection by going into their problem?
Can I roll my eyes in my head anymore? I might lose my eyeballs.
No,
listen. You know, it's like the exit now. way?
We need to
What did
include
you
why
want
they're
it to?
deadbeat dads. So as much as the women are not on point and are crazy, remember they're deadbeat dads.
All right, give
so
me
why?
Give me 3 points which make a deadbeat father. Symone, please.
Me give 3 individual points that make a deadbeat father. A father who is not consistent in their child's life. So a father who starts a pattern, breaks a pattern, starts a pattern, breaks a pattern, or just don't have a pattern at all.
Okay. And says this like, okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
he's actually
so
made
no
the agreement and then
lack of
breaking it.
consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's both.
We're not
There's
being
both
prejudiced.
straight. Yeah, there's
Alright,
both.
so this
There's
applies
both.
both ways. All right.
Yeah, it goes both ways. So yeah, that's shots fired to the person who sent that question, by the way. Yeah, because there's deadbeat dads, but there's deadbeat mums too. Let's keep it real.
Yeah.
But anyway, the 3 pointers. So yeah, consistency, lack in contribution, because they're 2 different things. Some parents, and I say parents referring to male and female,
What contribution?
deadbeat parents,
Financial,
both,
physical, or
emotional, financial, every kind of contribution that is needed to raise a young person.
All right.
Like contribution is key. Even if you can't contribute financially, you can contribute emotionally, and you can contribute your time.
But you can't contribute emotionally.
Not
if
emotionally,
you're not
if
on
you're-
point.
or not-
And
yeah.
that's a lot.
And
of
that comes with
these
consistency.
deadbeat dads.
That's why I said
Okay.
consistency.
Are not on point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
the
consistency,
So we-
So what did they say that again
contribution.
about the emotional?
No, well, you asked her
Yeah, I
to
know, yeah.
ask the 3
And what was
questions.
your point on that emotional
That
point?
you can't get certain things from a deadbeat dad, and that's what we realise when we've reached the end of our lesson with them. We realise, shit, he weren't capable of this, he weren't capable of
And
that.
same
I just
with the
didn't
roles
see it.
reversed.
And
Same with
same
the
with the
roles
roles
reversed.
reversed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but we're talking from a perspective of
Because you said deadbeat
male,
dads.
male and female. Yeah, I don't know what. I mean, I don't know what a deadbeat dad is. I don't even think that's the right heading for it, because you can have a dad that's there for their kids, turns up when he's meant to, but don't actually contribute anything of himself. He just believes that being there is enough. Is he a deadbeat dad? Some people would say no, because he picks up his kids 3 times a week, he pays for this, but actually he contributes nothing. So I don't know what a deadbeat dad is.
Your
I
time
just think
costs
dad
nothing.
needs to love their kids and be consistent. And I have recently watched little programs and little things on YouTube of males talking to each other, baby fathers talking to each other on a level of, boy, you know, when I was seeing that girl for however many years and we had a kid, and then we broke up, and you know, it was kind of difficult to go and see the youth because I weren't seeing her. And between the 2 of them, they came up with this admittance of, actually, sometimes when you have a kid for someone, they come as a package. And so when you break up, the hardest thing for the guy to do is to be seeing the kids, especially if you've got something to say as well, if you're not just cool and calm, because a lot of the time they want to come see the kid and get peace and get food, and not all the time.
Also, when you don't want peace, you get problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's that battle. You also get that problem, and I thought about it as well from the woman's side, because we're so full of emotions. So if we've got somebody that we've loved and they've hurt us and we've had to break up, of course the sensible thing is not to ever stop your kids from seeing their dad. It's nothing to do with them. However, being emotional being and being out of control or whatever at that time, or vibrating on your lowest level, you do some stupid shit, because I've been tempted to say, he don't want to talk to you, bye, but it's not the right thing to do. But it's hard, because the dad might have broken up, you might have broken up with the dad because he done something wrong. And then you've got to share your most precious fucking gift with this guy that you wouldn't even talk to now if you saw him on the street. That's a really hard battle, and a lot of women are not mentally ready. So what you find is the mum and the dad will battle with each other for a little while. But what I have found is when the dad is consistent, irrespective of how the mum acts, he's just there to pick up his kid. Over time, it all works out. But when you get that dad that runs because the mum is being irrational, instead of staying firm for his kid, he thinks, oh, you know what, it's too much, I'll see him later when he's older. That causes worse problems. I'm not saying you should, as a dad, you should put up with abuse and shit, but a lot of the time we're just fucking hurt. You've hurt us because we found out you're fucking your other baby mum or whatever shit. Like, we're hurt, so just allow us.
There's things where police is involved. There's many
Oh, I mean, there's levels. You shouldn't be going them sort of levels.
You might even be, you might be standing firm. You're not even doing. You might go there peacefully, but you can still get police calling you.
Oh, of course. No, that's a different kind of mum. That's a mum that's gone to that whole other level. I'm just talking about a mum who's, we've loved each other, you've hurt me, we're done, and I'm being a bit of a bitch right now, and I'm not answering my phone so you can see the kid. It's not right. Of course it's not right. But just give me a minute, because if you love your kid, then really you're going to grow. And you're going to realise, you know what, from the dad is knocking on the door every other day, he wants his son and I can't keep
only
him
hurting
away.
the kid.
Yeah, but you get some baby fathers, not a majority, because I don't know a majority, but you get some baby fathers that use that as an opportunity to run and to stay away, because it's a headache. Every time I come to your mum's house, she was cussing me and then I can't do nothing right.
I've seen it.
Right, but the dad that perseveres...
The only reason why I mentioned the other side, because I feel like that side is mentioned more than the other side.
Yeah, because you're usually the one that fucks up the whole situation, isn't it? We're usually... I know I stepped out of the general realm there, but I'm not speaking for these type of girls. I'm speaking for my generation of women, and usually a lot of us in my age, in the 40s, our partners or our baby fathers, as you call them, we've been with them for decades or over a decade. We're not millennials. We're not dealing with this new age of meeting people. We're old school, so... A lot of us are still troubling our baby father, even though our kids are 16, 17, 18 or 20. Like, we come from that older generation, do you know what I mean? So it's different for us. But yeah, as long as the dad is consistent, if he knows the mum, then he'll hold fast. So that means the dad must have been kind of all right then, no? Well, sometimes it's not that he's all right, but sometimes we make bad decisions.
Yeah.
We make bad decisions. And how you look right now, because I'm feeling you, is one thing. But how you look when you start fucking up and we're done... is another thing, because now when we're done, my eyes are open and my perspective is wider on you. But when I was seeing you, I loved you, so I had tunnel vision. And because I had tunnel vision, it worked. And so now we're done, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
You see everything now.
Yeah, but, you know, again, at that point, it is, I recognise who you are and that you're not right for me, but also I have to take accountability for my actions. Because I think a lot of us, I don't want to say black women, but a lot of women in our community, we're quick to say, oh, he's this, but in actual fact, as fucking it is, we've actually, we're accountable. Because sometimes we think, rah, I didn't even see no red flag. But that's only because you were vibrating on a lower level. Because if you were vibrating on a higher level, God or the universe
back to
was
taking
throwing
accountability,
red flags on
Not
your
everybody
path,
wants to
and
take
you
accountability for that.
Well, we've got animal side, isn't it? There's the animal side.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I get.
What we're attracted to, what we like.
So then we get it confused. That's lust. What you're talking about, animal attraction is lust.
I understand we got animal. We still fit in a certain category of animals, right?
Yeah, of course.
So we've still got them. We're intelligent, so we
We're intelligent, but we make stupid decisions.
But sometimes the intellectualizing of things make up.
Well, or your emotions. Your emotions get in the way, because you might meet a guy, or a guy might meet a girl, and he knows your spirit and your intuition and everything telling you this guy is wrong, but there might be one weird thing you like about him, and it just starts to grow. And then what is actually a flaw or a fault, you start looking at as something. Oh, I can fix that. Oh, I've got the power to do that. And he's feeling you, and so it just grows. Some people actually find themselves years down the line just in a situation that I don't even know. I met this guy like 10 years ago in the kebab shop. 10 years and 2 kids later, I don't even know how I got here. So I don't think women should be accountable for making the fucked up decision in the beginning by picking the wrong guy, or vice versa. However, at the end of that journey with that person, you have to get to a stage where I have to accept that I messed up, man. I made a wrong choice. I knew I weren't. You know, he had 3 baby mums already and wasn't visiting 2 of his kids. Of course I knew. Like, you have to know that sort of behaviour is going to come round to you. So now that I've got a 16-year-old daughter, I verbalise that shit to her. I show her that stuff. Like, I point out stuff in my own crap and say, look, when you see that is this. Don't do that, believe me, because that leads to that. Look at your mum, or look at your, you know?
Look at your examples.
You look at your examples. You don't always work. Doesn't mean they're not going to do it, but they've heard it. So when they see it, they're like, oh, my mum told me about that. You know, just make better decisions. And I think all women that have picked partners that have ended up being shit as partners or shit as baby fathers or whatever, it's because you were lacking something. Because I've been with my partner 20 years and I loved him up until however many months ago. But now that I'm in a different space and I'm looking at things totally different, I'm like, shit, I was totally, the signs were always there, but because I cared or whatever about the person, I overlooked or overcompensated certain things or excused certain things. And then you look around and you've been there for years and whatever. But don't be bitter, just accept accountability for it. It's fucked up. You might even still love him, but he's left. But, you know, that's only been cleared out of your path for your blessings to rain down. And I'm not even religious, but I know that. So anything you've put into somebody and they have not reciprocated it back to you, don't watch that. Because God, Jah, Allah, whatever you want to call it,
100%.
you just do you. So if you accept accountability, then you remove your hatred or anger for the dad or your partner.
You let it go.
And you let it go and you deal with him
Release it.
how he is. So if he only visits your kid once a month, you don't even sweat it. You're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, of course.
So that's the
And
thing
that's
I
what's
think.
important.
Yeah, I think women go through stuff and they don't step in their growth. They just sit in their, what's known as your pain body. You
I
just
think
sit
for
in
me
your
it got
pain
to the
body.
stage of just not chasing anymore. Like, I can see what you're doing. You can't teach somebody how to be a parent, man or woman. I could not tell the father of my child, you need to do this, you have to do that. It's not like you're disciplining your child. You can't implicate that type of behavior and expect to see a result. And for me, if you're going round and you're going round, we need to remember that we go around in these situations, but then the one person that gets affected the most is actually the child. And I think for me, seeing that cycle and the implications that it had on my child's life was where then I had to make that conscious decision as an adult. Okay, when does the cycle break? Do I carry on having patience because I want him to learn and I want him to be in her life? So I'm going to just continue to let this go on at a cost of her going mad because she expects more and she wants more and she's just rebelling because she ain't seeing it. So then it's like she's starting to lose respect. And my thing is I'm trying to keep that respect there. So then I had to step out because then I felt that the more I stayed in, then that's when I'd be looked at like maybe I'm the crazy baby mother because then I want to address every situation because her emotions are being affected when it's not that. I'm being the protective one because she should have more. Do you know what I mean? But for whatever the reasons are not receiving that, she's still.
You can't force it.
You can't force it. You
You
can't force it. You have to accept it for what it is.
If the child is left with the mother when the parents break up, the children always follow the mum's lead.
But she's
so if
accepted
the mum
it
is
now.
in the house,
The kid
broken
accepts
and
it.
upset, your kids are
You
gonna
know,
be
like if
fucked
the
up.
parent,
But
if the
your
parent
mum holds
accepts it,
that
the kid
shit-
accepts it.
Right, so
When
if
I-
your mum holds that shit and compartmentalises it, she might, be a great mum and go on like she's happy, and then in her room at night when you're all sleeping, bar her eyes out. That's what she's got to do as a mum, because if she chooses the other way of being consumed by whatever she's feeling, it's going to come out on your kids.
On
I've
your
done that
kids.
shit already, and
Definitely.
it doesn't work.
It don't
You
work.
just got to be strong. It's awful, and it doesn't always go like that, because the sad thing is, not all mums are strong in it. If they've not been
Definitely.
brought up with certain things, and even strong, I've started to even hate that word, strength and black women and that word together, just it's not good. It's not a good narrative by always putting this thing on women, especially black women, that we need to be strong, because actually we need to be completely vulnerable. And when I think sometimes because we've got that automatic label of being black
Being
and strong,
strong.
even our own black man thinks that he don't have to do or carry us or hold us up because you're a strong black woman. The whole world looks at us as a strong black woman.
Yeah,
And in
don't
actual
know it,
fact,
I
we
hear you.
shouldn't. I shouldn't even have used that word. I don't like to use that word. Of course we've got strength in us because that's just in our blood. Look what we've done.
It's just a label, the way the label.
But it's not something that should be perpetuated,
No,
because our
shouldn't.
own man don't think that we need love and attention and affection, because actually we're vulnerable.
Not all.
Not
Yeah,
all men.
no, no, yeah,
Not
not
all
all.
men.
No.
Not all men. Some men are in tune to that, even that whole concept. Some men are just, what do you mean? Like they're clueless. So
And I get that.
you're only going to get a certain thing off of
As a
them.
general statement.
Yeah, you're only going to get. But of course there are men like that out there. Yeah,
No, definitely.
definitely.
Yeah, man. Oh, all right. We're gonna start to wrap it up, but before we wrap it up, I want to say, give a message to the men out there
Oh
of what.
gosh, men.
Flash is like Derek Jackson, the new Derek Jackson, you know.
For parents, yeah, for man and woman. We've talked about men, we've talked about women, and we've talked about the kids
I don't know what
kids.
I'm not going to lie. If I was going to say anything, I'm going to just stick to the last two things I said, which is just like consistency, contribution.
All right.
Well, I don't know what you want to label the third thing as, but consistency but I thought, love, consistency, contribution, love.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the way you said that, I think it's important. Love that comes with a lot of things.
But that's a whole nother show, because what is love?
Yeah, I know.
What
That's
is
I was
love?
gonna
What
say.
is love?
what is
Soon
love?
as-
Everyone
soon
says
as you
sometimes
start even
people's
using that
definition of love
word,
is different.
You've
But
lost it.
Love,
You've
but
lost
you
it.
understand what I mean.
I don't. That's why I'm
I'm saying we can have another show on what is love. But if I
That's
just say the word love, if I say the word cup, we can say
We
what
should,
is
we
a
should,
cup?
everyone should know what love, but when it gets into the depths, I guess, yeah, then it
No,
gets,
we can go
For
down
me,
to
like
it,
anyone
but-
who's got children,
yeah,
just remember kids' lives are important.
yeah.
Like, put your feelings and your personal issues
So
aside.
hard, though. So
And just
hard.
it is hard, but nothing
To
in
not
life
be a
was easy.
parent.
There's no rule book or manual for
no.
nothing. But then at the same time, if you see the kid on the street that committed that murder, or the person that's committing that crime, or the child that's missing, or whatever that's going on, then don't sit down there on your sofa and judge that parent
Sorry.
for whatever their child's going. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
yeah.
Like, think of the bigger perspective of everything on an individuality. Don't like judge it based on because your circumstances are okay, that person's circumstances should be okay. That parent should know better. That person should do better. No one ain't walking in nobody's shoes. No one grew up in the same household. No one. Do you understand? Everything is individuality. Everything is learned. Like, we learn from each other, and now there's platforms like this now where the voices can be spoken. People can hear things. You hear the diversities. You hear the truth. You can pick out the truth from what's real. Like, learn, innit? Learn and elevate. Stop doing the same old crap. That's it. Like, really, it's change, make change, and change starts from listening and taking accountability and acting appropriately.
Yeah.
That's my message anyway.
Definitely. Big up, come on.
I don't know what kind of message I would have. I would say the advice I would give as a parent would be, whatever your rule or whatever your way of living or your ideology of bringing up your children, I would say be consistent, be steadfast with that. Consistency means whatever you've implemented from young, you keep it going all the way until whatever. Boundaries in everything. Boundaries with friends, boundaries with family members, boundaries with your children. Have that line. Our parents had that line.
Learn what boundaries are.
Learn-
Identify
you
them
didn't,
and make them
Identify
clear.
them. Our parents had enough boundaries, but they just,
clear.
no professor came out and said those things that you're implementing in your home are called boundaries. Now we know that they're called boundaries. And so try to implement them from young, from your children are young. And then in terms of just like, I don't know, everything in general, I think I would say peer pressure and complacency is the worst thing, because it doesn't matter if you teach your kids whatever religion, if the peer pressure in their school or wherever their group is stronger than you, it will win every time. And just being complacent, you know, assuming that your kid is this way. The judgment thing is the hardest thing, because we all judge. We make a statement and we don't even realise we're judging, you know. And so I would just say, peer pressure and complacency, and just be consistent.
And just for the parents
know
that
what to
do
say
have
for-
children in social
There ain't
services as
no-
well, I just want to say no, because a lot of parents tend to kind of feel defeated by the government. And my thing is to you lot, just don't give up. Even though social services put these policies and procedures in place, you're always going to be a parent. You carried your child, you raised your child, no matter what circumstances you are, there is always a way of overcoming and just like still being that parent in that child's life, because there's always going to come a time in that child's life when they get to a stage where they are left to being independent, like the government say, where they make their own choices. And they'll come and find you. They're going to want to know, like, why did you turn your back? Why was you not still there? Why didn't you fight enough? Like, no matter how many times people said give up, I weren't trying to give up. I did nothing wrong, even though the social media and all of these people made it seem like I was the worst parent in the world. These times it was not that. Like, don't give up on your child, because the beauty of it is I'm seeing the success and the beauty in my child's pain right now, and it's a beautiful thing because I never gave up. Whereas some parents don't really get to see that in their child life because their child's not here anymore, or like the separation is so distant that they don't even get that opportunity to make that amends anymore. So it's like, make a change in it. Like, don't let anything kind of really get in the way. No matter what it is, you are always a parent, despite the circumstances. You could be on a deadbeat dad, a deadbeat mum, whatever your circumstances are.
Yeah, I think for the dads, don't be.
Experience builds character. So
Yeah.
whatever you've been through, just still try to be better.
Try and be better.
Yeah, and remember your kid, man. Kids they need their parents. They really do.
Yeah.
They really do.
100%.
It's not about money.
It's
not
definitely
about
not about money.
It's just about time.
It's not about, and it's not about the past neither.
No.
Let go of the yesterday.
Yeah.
Let go of yesterday. It's today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let go of yesterday.
Pick up your kid every
Do you get me?
week. Take your kid football. Do those things. Those things are priceless to your kid. They will remember that over you buying them a pair of Jordans.
And even if you can't
dads-
communicate, there's ways to do it.
Yeah, like
everyone's
just come
got
and pick up
family
your kid,
members,
man.
friends.
Trust me, after a
You
while,
get me?
she's gonna
There's-
give in to that crap.
There's platforms there that you can co-parent. You don't have to speak to each other. Do you get what I mean? If you cannot stand each other that much, or you don't have family members or friends that can do that co-parenting, there's platforms there to reach out to, create the network for both parents. You do it. You do it.
But also, just even saying that, it sounds hypocritical because you can love your kid, but if you've been brought up a certain way and you've got certain perspectives, you kind of believe in, I'll leave that till later. So, as soon as we go to don't do this and that, actually, people think they've been brought up with forgetting how some of these
I feel like there'll be no closure because you actually can go around, like, where does it end? Because you know that you can go around in so many different...
what do they call it? Pathological DNA. So you can cuss off a dad, but you need to look at the dad's parents, and then you need to look at their parents, and then even in fact you need to look at your parents, and then your grandparents, and what you'll see is a pathological pattern. And so we can keep pointing the finger at the baby fathers, but in actual fact they're obviously like they've been a
product of
So if you know better,
then
let's just leave it at, if you know better, do better.
If you know better, do better.
That's it.
No better.
So that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right then, so people.
Social.
So people come. You're giving what you said in CMOS now, ain't you?
Yeah, so I sell
Quick,
fruit infused and herbal infused CMOS, and anyone that knows about CMOS knows that it's got 92 minerals of the 102 minerals your body already is made up of and needs. My Instagram page is planetmoss21 on TikTok and Instagram.
The flavours are banging.
The flavours are banging, yeah, I'm not going to lie.
Mango is banging.
I should have brought a jar, I know I should have, but yeah, check it out.
And myself, you can follow me at SEMS, so that's at SEMS.ESTD_16. That is the page that just shows you what I do with like the young people and adults in the fashion industry. And you can also follow me on my normal page at _Symone1.
Yep. All right, it's
Thanks
a pleasure
for having me.
Yep, definitely pleasure for you lot coming on, and I know a lot of people are gonna take into it and they're gonna get some valuable information, which is gonna help them in their relationship.
Just gotta keep it honest, man. It is what it is, man.
You're gonna help people. You drop some good gems, and I'm quite sure that people are gonna take it.
And to be fair, I do look forward to all types of criticism, like negative criticism.
There's nothing wrong with criticism.
Listen, I love criticism, innit? I love criticism.
Anyone that's judging you has probably got a lot to be judged by.
I don't care about judgment. I like opinions, innit? So I'd like to see.
I don't care about your opinions.
Yeah, I don't care about your opinion. We just care about the truth.
We just care about the truth, and we've been having banter.
Yeah. All right, people. Till next episode, like, subscribe, comment. Yeah, big up all the people. Blah 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 blah. Out.